Aston Villa back in the Champions League, a comprehensive win against the defending champions by 4-2. Let's confirm what that means then at the top of the table. Aston Villa, they're sitting fourth, obviously now can't be caught by the chasing pack. Liverpool aren't guaranteed, but they should be fine. Right then, it's difficult not to start this conversation with why on earth would Liverpool stick by Arne Slot, considering what we've seen over recent weeks, because there just seems to be nothing there at the moment.
If you sit at boardroom level with your, head of recruitments and all that, and your ownership and your chief executives, you sit down and you say, why, as you say, would we keep Arne Slot? What's the reasons we'd keep him? I think you struggle to find any. Now that would, if you'd have asked me in the summer, I said I'll give you loads of reasons. Yep. What he did last year, how the team played, how he conducted himself. But he's taken a team at the Community Shield in the summer, and we were here for the Community Shield when they got beat by Crystal Palace, but it was all new players, and you thought, well, they're bedding in, and it's going to take time to that back four to work together. It's going to take time for Florian Wirtz. It's going to take time for Hugo Ekitike and Alexander Isak, but they're going to be the team to beat. And he's taken a team a club that spent a lot of money in the summer, a team that were favourites to win the Premier League, and he's taken them and he's scrambling to get that last spot in the Champions League. Their performances have been shocking. He's upset the apple cart with a lot of the players. The fans have turned against him, which you don't see very often at Liverpool. So for me, there is no reason, and the reason can't be, for me anyway, he won the league last year. That's not the reason. Liverpool are on a slippery slope under this manager, and I honestly feel that they have to make the change now.
Is there not an argument to say that, but look what happened that summer. Look obviously what happened with Jota. Luis Diaz goes. Mo Salah has gone, pretty much. It's not the manager's fault that his front three were changing the way that they have.
Yeah, they did change, but you've still got very good players at the club. He's still had a good base to which to work from. You can every so often excuse when the front players aren't quite working out for you, and you're not playing at the right tempo and all that sort of stuff, because you'll have good days and you can have bad days in the front areas. But when you look so poor as they did tonight at the back, and have done on many occasions when they haven't got their offside line right, one centre-half's going in, the other centre-half is coming across. They played three at the back tonight. They tried to change the system with Gomez coming on the right-hand side. They were all over the place. The midfield players aren't closing down with any energy. Kirkes doesn't close the ball down for one of the goals. So that's where he's really lost it. Just the desire to defend, the organisation when they're defending hasn't been good enough, and that comes often down to the manager, and I would say also to the captain. Although he scored 2 goals, he wants to throw his arms up in the air and talk about everybody else. He's been one of the worst players in that Liverpool team for me.
I would agree. I totally agree. And I think as you look back at last year when they won the league, you were talking about how great Van Dijk was, how great Mo Salah was, and the two of them this season have been exceptionally poor by their own standards. And I think, again, from my perspective with Arne Slot, the summer was really tough, losing Jota and things like that. But I think a lot of Liverpool fans look at Arne Slot and think, how did he manage the team through the season and through those moments? And I think a lot of them, they start talking about Jurgen would have done it differently, this guy would have done it differently. And I don't think he has as much, sort of like, for as much, well, he won the league last year, he deserves a ton of credit for that. But I don't think the fan base really buy into him as much as you think he would do.
I think over the years, you judge managers when they're doing badly.
Right,
when
things are down,
when things are going well, you say, hey, what a great manager, what a great coach. But you don't get the full idea of what a manager's like until they start losing games.
Jurgen Klopp had bad performances. Every manager does. He had bad results, bad performances. But in any given stretch, he never had as many consistently bad performances. Because he was always able to find a reason and a way to get out of a sort of mini slump. He'd find this little bit of sparkle within making a change, or man management. Arne Slot's not been able to do that. We talk about the problems Liverpool have had. It was him that dropped Ekitike in the start of the season and brought in an unfit Alexander Isak. It's him that shuffled Florian Wirtz and Dominic Szoboszlai all over the place. Szoboszlai's been great, but he's been right back. He's been right of a front three. He's been centre midfield. He's been all over the place. Yeah. And you can't keep making as many changes as he has and expect to get consistency.
Yeah, I've got to say as well, I think from this Liverpool side, looking back at the fact that they were defending their Premier League title, something we shouldn't forget, I think they've ended up, as it stands, losing a third of their games in the league. if they were struggling to win games and they were drawing a few, that's a different sort of issue. Like that's like a Bournemouth, they've drawn 16 games.
And even worse, it was after a very good start. Remember,
Exactly.
they had a good start. They were top of the
Exactly.
table. You think, well, who's going to catch Liverpool? They beat Arsenal 1-0 in that game when Slobosai scored the free kick, and you thought they're going to run away with this title at that point. And then it all starts to go wrong.
If there's no confidence in Merseyside, and certainly in the red half, and I don't think there is, and I think it's not, and I think it's a lot of ex-players as well. I'm sure I'm not talking for Stevie, but you know, people of that ilk back in Liverpool who go to the games, I think maybe publicly they won't be saying it, but certainly privately a lot of them are saying, I think we need to make a change here.
Yeah.
Don't fancy this guy. I think maybe he picked up the slack from Jurgen Klopp. He ran with it, made a few tweaks here and there. That's great. And then when he had to make some really big decisions in his second season, he's been found wanting. And I think if you were to do a straw poll in Merseyside about do you have any confidence in Arne Slot going forward, I think the bulk of them, and I'm talking probably 80-90%, maybe even more, would say no. We have completely lost our way.
You said it a little bit earlier. You don't often hear the Liverpool fans booing. They were booing at half-time when they were 1-0 down.
Yeah.
And is there any comeback for a manager that's been booed by the Liverpool fans? Not usually.
Obviously, if this was simple, Slot goes, Xabi Alonso comes in.
It certainly feels that way at this moment in time. I think Xabi Alonso has probably not made it a secret that he wants to be the coach of Liverpool at some point, and the fact that he's available right now and is interested in him elsewhere, you would think that maybe they will pull the trigger on that and make it happen.
What's the argument against that?
Trying to extend Slot, give him some more time. Like that.
And then we're going around in circles.
Yeah,
aren't we? 'Cause you're thinking, well, what
that's
have
how
we
I
seen
see
over
it,
the last 6
yeah.
And then
months?
you've got to rely on Alonso saying, OK, I'll wait.
But wait for what? What does this Liverpool board think that's going to happen over the summer, that Slot's magically going to get this team
I know
to
that,
click?
and we were talking about this on the way up here. The rumours have been swirling about Chelsea and Xabi Alonso, which I think most of us would find unlikely, bearing in mind the Liverpool situation, but not impossible.
Yeah.
If he gets an inkling that Liverpool are going to sit in their hands with the manager, then he might think, well, I need to get back in. And maybe that's not the right thing for him to do, is jumping back in too quickly to a bad situation, which Chelsea is. Believe it or not, Chelsea is a situation that's poorer than Liverpool. Maybe that will change here tomorrow. Who knows? Certainly short term. But that's a sort of that's hanging over at the moment. You know, what's saving Arne Slot at the moment is no big decision has been made, and there are some rumours about Alonso and Chelsea, as well as I think Nathan mentioned earlier.
But if you're Alonso, why
I'm going
would
to
you
Liverpool.
why would you pick Chelsea over Liverpool?
Well, I don't think he's picking Chelsea over
Right.
Liverpool. I
No
think his
chance.
agents and the
Right.
people around him are saying, associating him
I see.
with Chelsea, so that Liverpool make the move. Liverpool their board will be saying, we're going to have to make the move now. We can't wait till next season.
For sure, I think it's an interesting question that you put forward, because in my eyes, if you start the next season as Liverpool with any doubts over Slot at all, then you have to do it this summer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's essentially a waste of time. Because as we've sort of mentioned, do we know that someone like Xabi Alonso will be available? When the next season starts, we're not sure.
Word on Villa, qualify for the Champions League again?
Yeah, I had a little, second half of the season, bit of a stutter. Crowd actually got a little angsty with him at times, a little restless, which I think tells you about modern day football, because Unai Emery has been just utterly brilliant. A final for them in midweek. They play Freiburg. I would presume they're the favourites. They're in the Champions League anyway, through the Premier League. They're possibly going to lose Morgan Rogers in the summer, and maybe one or two others, so it's not going to be an easy summer for them. But we're the better side tonight, and if they win the Europa League, has got a great record in Unai Emery, so I don't think Villa can believe just how well it's gone since the sacking of Steven Gerrard and the appointment of the Spaniard.
They've had an inconsistent season at times. I mean, they've been excellent.
Yes.
And when they play like they did tonight, and they play fast, forward-thinking football, they look a really good team. When they've struggled is when they try and keep possession at the back and they slow everything down. That's when they've struggled, particularly at home, and the crowd get onto them. If he does what he did tonight and he's done for most of the season, they're a good team.